This is the Amphibious, the world's most deadly, resourceful, and let's just call it what it is, damn right ugly looking amphibian attack vehicle that the world has ever seen. So how in the heck did this happen? Before I can answer that, I need to take you back, far back, right to the very beginning.
Hey guys, welcome to UK here, and whilst I am having a bit of fun with DieselPunk WARS, the content of my review is actually serious. This game is such a huge amount of fun that I simply just had to share it with you. So I'm grateful to have been given access to the closed demo version of the game. This is not the full game, but it does give a pretty good idea of what the game is all about. The elephant in the room is the UI. It is horrific. It's so bad that I almost quit a few times. But if you do persist past the UI, what is underneath is extraordinarily fun and enjoyable. So this is how the game starts in a tutorial. The red dwarf looking vehicle you see before you was provided to me by the game in order to teach me the very basic controls. Having navigated through all of the blue orbs, I was now instructed to fire at the spinning coins. Once all the coins were destroyed, I was literally dropped into the deep end of the ocean and directed to navigate my ship, this time between the orbs, whilst dealing with our buoyant foe. I made pretty short work of him and his frigate, and our frigate handled like a speedboat on steroids, so the orbs were no problem for me either. Next, I was immediately flung high up into the sky in what can only be described as a floating thing mounted with bombs. I used those bombs to first decimate a blue circle target, and then secondly to destroy our friendly fellow red dwarf vehicle in which we started. That was a lot of fun, but to be honest, the UI made things a lot less enjoyable than they should have been. At last though, we were finally permitted to construct our own vehicle, and this is where the fun really began. Now before we go on, I want to make something absolutely crystal clear. DieselPunk WARS is a vehicle building game which focuses on combat with extremely realistic and advanced physics and simulated damage. There are over 280 different elements to construct your own land, sea and air vehicles in order to fight your enemies. These enemies vary in complexity and difficulty, and the campaign is fought across land, sea and air, and even under the sea, and even on floating islands. The map then seems to be huge, and I've got to say that the scenery, the oceans and the explosions are extremely pleasing to the eye, and also quite pleasing to the ear. But I don't know anything about any of that, because I just had so much fun building and testing and crashing and burning and fighting and winning and losing and rebuilding. It isn't often that I enjoy a game so much that I don't even bother playing the game. The game was like, go here to start your mission, and I was like, nah, I think I'll stay here and build something cool like the Amphibious. Honestly, that sounded so much cooler in my head last night when I was playing this game and named it that. So anyway, this is the story about how the Amphibious came to be. I started out with a basic design, but I wanted to focus on strength and stability, and actually, at this stage, I really didn't know anything about the game. In all honesty, I was still in the tutorial and certain components were still locked away from me. So yeah, we started out without any wheels. But I soon figured out how to get back into the edit mode, and we sorted that out pretty quickly. I added a steam engine and decided to go with 4-wheel steering for extra manoeuvrability. Turns out though that wasn't going to offer enough traction for the weight that we were carrying. 6 wheels then seemed a much better option, and so it was. Once I got the wheels sorted out, I added crew compartments. I've still got no idea what difference that makes. I added some fuel resources and finally some chimneys. I added chimneys because the tutorial explained to me that steam engines can overheat. But I actually wasn't paying that much attention to the tutorial anymore because I was just having way too much fun already. So I just stuck 4 chimneys on top of my vehicle for decorative purposes. They weren't even connected to the steam engine at all, so I have no idea where all that smoke even came from. So we can call this Phase 1. I decided that we were ready to take on an opponent, and so we were. The Red Dwarf fan was summoned. He put up a good fight, but I did enough, just enough, to win him over and progress into the next phase of development, which was in the water. I decided to start again from scratch, taking everything that I had learnt in the previous phase and threw it out the window. You can see already though the first glimpses of the Amphibious emerging. This stubby little number was all but powerless against the sea waves, but she was buoyant, and we progressed to stage 3. Now it is fair to note that the Amphibious does not fly, not yet at least, but the flying machine that we built here was unique in many ways. I took her into battle and we won. I learnt a lot about being resilient in those battles, how to lose parts of your craft and keep going. And that shaped an awful lot of what happened in the next phase. Because I found myself in a race. Speed, it seemed to me, could be an additional benefit to our survival, another string to our bow, and a way of legging it when everything else had gone wrong. So I took the basic frame shape of the Range Rover to form our base. I kid you not. This is exactly what I tried to emulate here. Having learnt nothing from my previous mistakes, I once again opted for 4 wheels instead of 6. As you might expect, that instantly failed, so I jumped back into the 6-wheel club. But we were just way too slow. We didn't have enough acceleration, enough grip, or enough top-end speed. I simply had to redesign everything. I added more engines and chimneys to stop them from overheating, and more guns because everybody was shooting at us. We were ready. So ready. And we so nearly had him. So nearly beat him. We were almost there and I could taste victory. So I drove back to the start. And this time, we did it. Victory! And that's when we rolled into our first naval fight, sort of. It wasn't much of a battle, but I realised in that moment that I needed to get across the water in order to get to our next official battle. So there was only one solution: Amphibious. I added a rudder, water propellers, and I drove straight in. It worked, kind of. We made it across the watery strip, climbed back onto the land and drove headfirst into our next battle, promptly followed by driving headfirst back into the deep ocean. Turns out that was a big mistake, as we couldn't get back out of the sea. We were stuck there completely. So I returned back into the ocean, fought off 2 of our enemies, and redesigned whilst in the sea. I figured 6 wheels offers more traction than 4, so 8 wheels should offer more traction than 6. And it did. Just not quite enough. I knew I had to do better. So that's when I swapped wheels for tracks. 4 tracks to be precise. I also added more engines and a few more propellers to improve speed and turning whilst in the sea. Would it work? Yes. Yes, of course it did. We found our next opponent and we destroyed him with grace, style, and relative ease. The Amphibious had officially arrived. I felt ready for a big fight. The circles indicate where a battle starts. The colour of them denotes the difficulty level, and I could see that a red one, the most difficult setting, was straight ahead of me on the next island. I felt that a few more tweaks were necessary. More speed from the rocket boosters, perhaps. Hell yes, perhaps. And more guns, definitely more guns. And with that, we were off and ready to fight our most difficult battle yet. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is where our story started today. A good 10 minutes ago, and this is what happened next. We were set upon, unexpectedly, from the sea and the air. Very quickly, we were on fire too. Thankfully, thanks to our amphibious nature, we could use the sea to instantly douse our flames. We had taken severe damage, but the lessons learned from our airship experience ensured that our Range Rover structural core was still intact. We headed deeper into the ocean and trained our guns upon the air balloon attacking us from above. The battle went on for some time, and the sea-based enemy that was previously shooting at us had seemingly floated off out of range. The AI in this game are questionable at best. And it was just us and the air balloon, locked in a deadly fight to the death. Using a combination of the jet propulsion we had and our better steering that we now had at sea, I was able to fire and quickly evade the majority of the enemy's bombs whilst reloading our guns. It took time, it took skill, and it took patience. But eventually, we managed to destroy that airborne foe. Victory, at last, for the Amphibious. We remained unbeaten. Oh, bugger.